Hello, everybody. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my cat, apparently, who decided she was going to join the stream also. Thank you for joining us for the second episode of The Dead Hours. And new camera, new me. I'm your host and future ghost with the most, Vivian Noir. And tonight I'll be sitting down with an amazing paranormal team. They have 732 subscribers to their channel, Ghost Show, and hopefully substantially more after this episode airs. So we've had them on the Spooky Show before. They were on episode 20. They were our special guests during our quarantine episode. And they are the most awesome guys. They're so much fun. Please welcome Jay Milton and Jeremiah O'Reilly, the lead investigators from Ghost Show.
Hello, hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Nice to see you again.
How are you doing? I know. It's been a minute.
It has been.
Yeah, things have been still crazy for us, I guess, but
yeah,
good nonetheless.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez, that's good. It's good that it's been like, because I don't know, it was like we had our little interview kind of like right when the world was like it was still kind of like, this will be over in like 2 weeks, right? And then
no.
months later,
and then not so much anymore.
Yeah, and now I feel like we're in the exact same place.
Over.
Yeah, I feel like in New York.
Yeah, you guys like
pretty much the same. No one's really doing anything.
Seriously, New York was in the upside down.
Yeah, it was wild.
Maybe it's always been in the upside down.
Are things still locked down out there?
Not like really, but everybody I think here saw how bad it got and has been pretty good about not only going places when they need to. I think that's like there's like a pretty strong desire to stay home, I think.
That's what there should be right now, I think. Like, but it makes it hard for what you guys do.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of production dates lined up for the show, and all of them ended up getting canceled and are still not exactly rebooked yet. There's a lot of guidelines in New York State, especially for production, and we consider ourselves a professional production team, and so we want to work within those guidelines if we're going to be doing a production. So we're still kind of trying to figure out how to maintain the quality that we set out to attain and be safe and follow those guidelines. So we're hoping soon we'll be able to get back into production. But
we've
not fun. We spend most of this time just pre-producing episodes. So I have a whole bunch of places that we're really excited to get to as soon as it is possible for us to get to.
Maybe we can spill the beans on some of those later. Maybe. If you feel like giving me some
little teaser.
I don't want to promise something and then not deliver, but I'm sure there are a few that we can talk about that I know are going to happen at some point.
It's really hard to tell too. Like what's if anything's going to change, between now and our production dates. Like even if we do get something scheduled, like I feel like we don't really know. So.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have a couple. I have like 2 potential places out in Vegas, potential for investigation that I have like tentatively on the line, but I don't know from day to day if we're gonna get put back in lockdown or not. So it's like can't really plan anything. Like you can kind of sort of put a pin in it and be like, yeah, we'll get there, but concrete plans are kind of difficult at the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy because like even just like stuff outside of like Ghost Show, just like real life stuff. Like my parents are like, "Hey, your cousin's getting married in November," and I'm like, "But are they really?" Like,
no, is it?
Yeah, I'm like, really? Yeah. So I feel like everything is so up in the air.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
It's a struggle for sure.
It is. So we'll get into the interview portion. We got at least 5 people watching right now on the live. So
hey, 5 people.
So 5 people.
Hey, live people. Hey, people that are watching us. And we're on YouTube, Facebook Live as well. So we've got I think it looks like 7 total right now, which is pretty good for my tiny channel. So
that's great.
So how did you guys meet? I mean, I know this story, but they don't know.
Well, we've known each other for a while now. Because so outside of Ghost Show, Jay and I are actually professional musicians, and we're in the rock band The Demos. So we've been playing music together for quite a while. And so when I joined the band, Jay was kind of just starting to volunteer at Rolling Hills Asylum, which is one of our favorite paranormal haunted places. Shout out to Sharon. I was always into it as a kid. I used to watch Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and all those shows growing up in high school and stuff. And so when I found out Jay did this, I'm like, dude, like I have to come with you. And I don't know, the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, Ghost Show kind of stemmed from last year. We were in the runnings to be on the reboot of Ghost Hunters that aired on A&E, and it obviously didn't happen. And both of us we're both filmmakers on top of being musicians, so we're like, why are we waiting for a network to come do something with us? We can just do it ourselves. So we let's just do it. And we spent a good amount of time kind of thinking about what we wanted our show to be like, and we shot like I would call it like not even a pilot, like a tech rehearsal, last summer, and that will never see the light of day because we learned a lot in that.
You know what though? If we ever make a Patreon, that should totally be.
I think
something we just like let our Patreons look at. Not that we have a Patreon.
Oh yeah,
it's cringe-worthy though.
It is. It's really, really bad.
It can't be worse than one of our unedited words. Unedited. We did one of our episodes unedited in a take, and you heard us say some wild stuff, and we put it on the Patreon of like, this is what it is before it sounds good. We are ridiculous.
Well, our episode would be like, this is the best we could do to make this watchable. So we made that kind of test run, and then our first episode was supposed to be kind of a more refined tech rehearsal, I'll call it. But honestly, we went into Nightmare Manor, which it's like a haunted attraction, like a Halloween, like people jump out and scare you. And I had worked with the owner on something, and he was telling me about all these paranormal experiences he was having. And I was like, hey, would you mind if like a few of us like come and investigate your building? And he was open to it. And honestly, I did not expect to really experience anything paranormal, but we experienced so much while we were there in those 6 hours. And like, I was like, this can't be a tech rehearsal. Like this is our first episode. So there are a few things that will get tweaked as we kind of go on through more investigations, but like we managed to turn it into kind of what our idea for the show was. But we're constantly refining. So be sure to tell us what you hate about it.
I mean, even just watching back like the first episode we did, like I don't know, I already have like a million ideas of things to improve or things to change, or like, it's like even just things I said on camera, and I'm just like,
you're like, why did
I say that, or just so yeah, we're really excited about continuing to grow the show and see where it goes. It's been a lot of fun, and just to kind of go off what Jay said about with Ghost Hunters, like there are obviously a lot of benefits to having a show on a network, but one of the benefits for us doing it ourselves is we have total creative control, which
absolutely
is kind of rare in that kind of in the television industry and even the music industry. Like we're constantly working with like other people. So there's always like opinions all over the place. So this is nice because it's just me, Jay, and then our two camera audio video guys. Well, I can't even speak. Reese and Austin. So it's like just the four of us, and it's just like super laid back. We get to kind of do whatever we want. It's kind of refreshing, I think. Personally, I really enjoy that part of it.
And the nice thing about that too is that, and I've heard this from other people who do YouTube for their shows, is that not only do you get 100%, final edit, and you get to say what's in the show as opposed to somebody telling you, we need checklist, this, and this. You also have the limited crew where it's like there's only 4 of you, or there's only 2 of you, or there's only 1 of you. So there's not like, you don't have that aspect of like, oh, there's 19 people in the back set, wandering around, and somebody's like, oh, well, that's what that noise was somebody, like some tech wandered behind something and bumped, while they were filming. So
that's the good side of having a crew of 4. The bad side is that we're producing, we're shooting, editing. We're investigating, we're reviewing all of our evidence, editing, mixing. I mean, it's a lot of work goes into putting an episode out. Like so many hours of work, which I bet, yes. it's incredible amounts of fun, but it is a lot of work also. We just love it. Like, we don't do it for any other reason other than we love it.
Other than it's fun. Yeah. It's like, this is awesome. We wouldn't do this, otherwise. It's like, what's that? Edit, 32 something hours of footage and just stare at it.
There are times when I'm like 2 weeks into an edit when I'm like, I don't know that I like this anymore. But
I kind of hate this now.
But when we're done, I'm like, okay, that was worth it. Like, there's nothing better this is just my personal opinion, from a creative standpoint of setting out to make something and kind of having your vision realized. And that doesn't happen a ton. But when you get close to it, where you're like, I saw this in my head and now we made it into reality. That to me is like the greatest feeling of making something.
That's very true. Well, yeah, because there's been times when I'm like editing, because we trade off editing the podcast. So I'm sitting there like with the headphones on going, I hate this episode. I hate this episode so much now. Like, I'm tired of hearing our voices. What were we even doing? But then you get to the final edit, and you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I guess it was okay.
It always comes together in the end.
It does. Yeah. So what made you guys start getting into the paranormal? Was there a particular event? Like, did you have something happen? Was your house haunted? Like, what got you kind of drawn into that?
Well, for me, I grew up horrified of ghosts, like terrified. As a kid, like nothing scared me more than ghosts. I don't even know why. Like, thinking back, I'm like, I was a totally different person then. But I also kind of grew up with the shows, and I remember when Ghost Hunters came out, and I remember even still being like fearful watching those episodes, being like, I remember thinking as like a teenager, I could never do that. And I don't know, I think my entire life I've kind of like experienced weird stuff. And like, I'm hard pressed to say that any of it was paranormal, but I'm always kind of left scratching my head as to what something like that was. And for me, my first real paranormal experience where I was kind of like, okay, maybe there's something to this. I had gone to a Halloween event at Rolling Hills Asylum, so that's like our stomping grounds. That's like where we learn to investigate.
I need to go there.
we both volunteer there. So like we're tour guides. We help people learn to investigate, just like we learn to investigate going there. And so I went to an event there, and I was like total skeptic. I was like, nothing's going to happen. This is like just for fun. Like, this is, it's Halloween. People want to be afraid, so they'll be afraid. And I just experienced some stuff that I really could not explain. And I remember, I remember leaving there at like 4:00 in the morning, being like, this, like, I just knew that it would be a part of my life in some way. Like, I had like all these questions that I'd like had a burning desire to get answers for. And I just knew that in some way or another, that experience would impact my life going forward in a way that was bigger than I anticipated. And I mean, I think that Ghost Show is kind of like the real start of that, kind of at least putting a more public eye on what we've been doing all those years. But for me, it's really like, I don't know I still don't know.
You still don't know. You're still not 100% convinced.
Yeah, I have no. I like. It's like every time I feel like I'm always like looking for an answer, but I never really get anywhere near finding it. I just kind of get more questions every time.
It's like an episode of Lost.
Yeah.
I have more questions now than when we started.
It's like every time you think you're close to figuring something out, something happens to totally derail your train of thought or theory. Or it's so. There's just nobody knows. It's
that's why there's no such thing as a paranormal expert.
Exactly.
Nobody knows. And Jeremiah, what about you?
I mean, I had kind of a similar entry into doing this a little more seriously. So through Rolling Hills, but if we go past that, like, you know, into when I was a kid, I'd always kind of just experience weird things. And one moment in particular that stands out. It all kind of happened one summer. It must have been like in between junior and senior year of high school. And I was hanging out with my friend Adam, and we were driving to I think it was like 7-Eleven in the middle of the night to get snacks. Because, you know, we were up watching TV or whatever. I was at his house. We pulled through this intersection, and I hear a little girl's voice say, "Hey." What? And I was like, I think it was like midnight. It was like the middle of the night.
Somewhere a kid should not be.
Yeah, totally.
Basically.
Yeah, so I'm driving, and I'm like looking around. You know, I had like just gotten my license. Like, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to run somebody over. And then I look over at my friend Adam, and his face is white. He's like, dude, some girl got hit by an ambulance here last year and died.
What?
So I don't even think we went to 7-Eleven. I think we just turned around and went back to his house and just slept with the lights on.
Just like, yeah, we're going to go home.
We're like, I've had enough of this. And then, I don't know, just, there's just always been like things like that, just like voices and things out of my peripheral and just the feeling of somebody watching me. And like, I've had a few experiences at places I've worked where, like, you know, I hear footsteps of people that aren't there, you know, like I'm alone in a building, like doors opening and stuff. So it's always been something that like I'm with Jay, like I've never experienced anything where I could say like concretely, like, yes, this is real. And I have people coming up to me all the time once they find out what we do. And they're like, oh, have you ever seen a ghost? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I've experienced a lot of weird stuff. I could say that much, but like, I have no idea. And I'm like, that's what keeps me coming back is that like innate desire. It's like, I really want to prove to myself that this is real, because otherwise maybe I'm just crazy, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. Since those moments, like, you know, Jay and I have experienced some stuff.
Yes.
And regardless of how more real it becomes, it's still like, I still find myself like awake at night thinking about it, just explaining it off as something else, you know? Mm-hmm.
Just trying to like, I mean, and that's how, honestly, like a good show goes, you know, you don't immediately jump to that conclusion. You always try to debunk whatever it is first. You always try to go like, hey, was that you? Did you move? Like, hey, was that a car outside? Like, you always want to go to those explanations first to try and eliminate what it could be rather than just like jumping to conclusions, you know? Yeah,
for sure. And like the thing about it, and I'm sure this is like different for all investigators, but like, you know, my drive and desire behind it is not so much like, obviously contributing to the field of paranormal investigation is really important because, you know, it's not just me. Like there's hundreds and millions of people who have the same experiences, you know?
Right.
And, I think collectively finding answers is really important, but I think like my real desire is for me, like I want to prove to myself that like, that there's some validity to it, because otherwise it's just me hearing voices in my head
like,
in a creepy place.
Schizophrenic. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact that there is such a collective like experience in this is like really like nurturing, at least for me. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever find out answers, but I like to think that with so many dedicated and like really interested people, I feel like how can we not like,
right?
How can we not keep learning?
One of these days,
yeah, one of these days. And I wonder if the day we figure it out, if that ever happens, if it'll be a lot more boring.
And people will be like, "Oh yeah, we knew that."
Yeah, it's like, oh, now it's kind of like,
And
well, it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? Once you see the man behind the curtain, you're like, man, at least he has a hot air balloon. You know?
Like, on to the next adventure, on to the next unknown thing. So what do you guys feel is the most compelling piece of evidence that can be captured during an investigation? Like, say you were showing it to somebody trying to like say like, hey, I really can't explain this. You know, what do you think? Like, it was audio, video.
I think like the holy grail of it would be like video of an apparition.
Whole body apparition.
It's so rare. I mean, like people present video evidence all the time, and a lot of times it's like a light anomaly that could be dust, or there's so many rational explanations for a lot of things that are presented as evidence, our own included. I mean, we're really big on not really claiming that anything we present is like truly paranormal.
True.
There's a disclaimer before our episodes to say that this is our interpretation. Like, we're basing our thoughts on being there, like our experiences, and like our analysis of our evidence. And like, we're not saying that it's paranormal. We're just saying that we can't explain what it is.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that visual evidence, I mean, that was like my thing when I first started investigating, was just like I'll stop doing this when I like capture a ghost on camera. Like, yeah, like that's my thing. That's what I want. And
maybe we're the ghost.
Yeah, like that to me is the most compelling. Probably like audio is secondary.
Yeah.
Like if you can get like an EVP with vocal tone, and you have cameras on every person in that room and nobody's mouth is moving, that to me is pretty compelling. But like, and it's almost like, for me, in lieu of that like video of a ghost like lunging at your camera, the most like compelling evidence isn't like one piece of evidence, it's multiple. So like when you can start layering pieces of equipment validating something with you, that's when I get excited. Like when you have an EMF spike and you get an EVP and you're feeling something, like, or you get a temperature change. As soon as like devices start working together to kind of show that something environmentally is changing and you're getting visual or audio evidence at the same time, that's when I'm like, okay, this is like evidence to me.
Yeah,
like one thing independent is like, well, that could be 100 things, but when you start layering them on top of each other, that's
a lot less unlikely that it's just a random occurrence. So.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think? What's your favorite?
Discount it when it's like, okay, well, it was this, but it was, and you captured something on SLS, and the REM pod went off, and you have, so it's like when you have this layer of, it's like, okay, well, I can't discount all of those things working in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Which we have a clip of that we'll go over later from Nightmare Manor episode. So if money was no object and COVID was not a thing and nothing was closed, where's your guys' dream paranormal destination to go investigate?
We talked about this a lot. The White House, right? That's our spot.
Yeah,
we want to go to the White House.
Yeah, I think
we're going to share it with everyone else.
Because that beyond a shadow of a doubt, the White House is really freaking haunted.
Oh,
it has to be, right?
And they would never let a paranormal team in it either. Like,
no,
that'll never happen. Nobody will be able to investigate that.
That's the thing, is like, even if you could pass security clearances, like what if it's like, dude, you can do all the background checks you want, just let me in there with cameras. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's so many great places, all around the country.
What did you say last time, Jay? It was like some like old medieval castles, right?
Yeah, castles. I've always been fascinated, and like honestly, I find like things that like terrified me as a kid. I remember seeing some like History Channel documentary about like the ghosts of some castle in Scotland or something when I was a kid, and it like scarred me. Now I just want to go to that castle. Like I remember like the voiceover being like, you can hear her screams from the dungeon
Oh wow!
in the middle of the day, and like I was like, I want to hear those screams now. Like as a kid, I was like, no way, no,
Like,
I don't
no.
want any of that. And now I'm like, let's get to that castle. Let's hear those screams.
Was that like Ghost Hunters International or something like that?
No, this was like one of those like 90s like History Channel docs. It was like really bad. Like I would love to find out what it was, because I just have like I have a horrible like horrifying memory of it. Like that's the only thing I'm going on. Like so it could be like
really bad like recreations on those History Channel ones too, like for the 90s. They always had like somebody in really bad period costumes, like
and they just put like a mist filter and everything, so it's all blurry.
It's all blurry.
Right.
Yeah. All the Vaseline on the lens.
Dream filter.
I think we might have to revamp our VFX, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's just like only invest in technology that was used in 90s History Channel docs from now on.
Yes.
Right. Like,
shoot a whole episode like that, just in
big camcorders with
the big betas, man. We need those betas.
Yeah.
Shoot only on film.
Right. You should shoot at least one episode like that. Just one episode in that 90s History Channel filter style.
Oh,
you know what? We'll just do it in post. We'll just bring it into Premiere and throw a filter on it.
Patreon.
Yeah.
You know who'd hate that is Austin and Reese, who are our audio video techs, because they'll be lugging around cameras that weigh 50 pounds all day.
They're gonna be like, why?
I know. Yeah, it's funny because like the mirrorless Sonys that we use now are so tiny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They weigh like nothing. You actually have to weight them down to stabilize them.
We do. Yeah. Terrible. It's so weird.
Camera's gone.
Although we've been thinking about bigger cameras lately. So.
Thinking about, but have nowhere near the money to invest in.
Oh my god! Right?
Yes.
So, what has been your guys' most disturbing / frightening encounter that you've had so far? That you've just been like, I can't explain what that was, and that really kind of.
I got grabbed once.
You got grabbed
at Rolling Hills Asylum, and it didn't feel like malicious or anything. I don't think anything in that building is malicious. Like everything is, all the spirits there seem super friendly, but something totally grabbed the back of my shirt and pulled me back into the hallway when I tried entering the room. And oh my god, I died for a second.
I actually died.
Well, I feel like when you go into these places, there's almost like an expectation that you're going to experience something, so you're already a little bit prepared for it. And it was just like a moment that I was not prepared for. And
oh yeah, for sure.
My heart was racing like crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, that was probably the scariest moment maybe of my life.
Top 10, top 5.
Yeah. Top 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. Top 3.
It's up there, but like in retrospect, it was super cool because I feel like that's not something, obviously I can sit like here thinking back and think, oh, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe I'm just whatever, imagining it, but it totally did. And like, how do you explain something like that? Because it was me, Jay, and our friend Drew, and they were both in front of me. I was the last person to enter the room. There's no one else there. It was just us 3. So, whew.
Like, chills thinking about it.
Oh gosh.
I've been grabbed once there. But I think I'm trying to think of like my most like terrifying. The most like probably the time that I was like, I really don't know what that was I was leaving there after a tour. It was just me and the owner, Sharon, were the only people left in the building. I was carrying, I think I had like filmed some stuff that night. So I had like probably 100 pounds of like recording equipment, like in a giant bin. And I was carrying it out to my car, and I opened the door and it's heavy. And I hear Sharon just yell my name. And I'm like annoyed because she saw me like leave the room with this giant, like heavy thing. And I like turn around and say, "What?" There's no answer. So I go to my car, I unload everything, and I come back in the building and I go find Sharon. And I said, "Did you just like call my name like 2 minutes ago? Like, what did you want?" She's like, didn't call your name. I've been here this entire time. Like, but it was like clear.
Like on the other side of the building kind of thing.
Yeah, like she was on the other side of the building. She hadn't moved from that spot the entire time I was gone. And like she claims she didn't call my name. And I mean, it was loud enough where like I was convinced it was her. Like I was like, I answered her annoyed. Like I was annoyed that she was calling. Like to me, like when I have that much of like a visceral reaction to something, like I didn't imagine that. Like I heard a voice call my name.
Right.
But it sounded like her too.
Yeah, I you know,
like,
it's
oh, what do you want?
that could have been my voice just like connecting it though. You know, we're the only two people there. So like I hear a woman's voice calling my name. I'm like, oh, it's Sharon. Like, you know, it's not like it's not. I don't know that I necessarily recognized her voice in it because it's one syllable. She said J. So, you know, that could just be my brain connecting the dots.
Right.
But I mean, I heard somebody call my name to the point where I turned around and answered.
And we're like, is that you? And she's like, no.
There was another time I was giving a tour, and there's a hallway in Rolling Hills called Shadow Hallway, where like the light hits the hall and just away where like you can see shadows kind of like walking across the hall and up and down the hall. And yeah, it's really wild, like just to sit in that hallway and kind of like just stare and see stuff moving. It doesn't always happen. And honestly, like that hallway gave me like the worst like vibes ever when I first started going there, but it hasn't been as bad for me there. I just get creeped out sometimes.
Just look creeped out.
Yeah. But so I was giving a tour and I was talking about all the things that happen in this hall and how they can like try to see the shadows by focusing on a certain point in the hallway. And the entire time I'm giving my tour points, there's like a person who's like approaching me, like getting closer and closer to me. And like when we get into Shadow Hallway, I have everybody turn off their lights. So we're sitting in pitch darkness so I can kind of, you know, explain how to see, like, you know, here's the ambient light, let your eyes adjust, see if you can see anything moving around down the hall. And this person's getting closer and closer. And I'm like, eventually I'm like, hey, could you just take a step back? There's nobody there. Like I turn on my light and like I saw the outline of a figure like standing right like up on me. Like to the like you know that feeling you get when like somebody's like just close talking you and you're like step back. Yeah, like so I was feeling that like get away from me please. Yeah. And like there was nobody there. And I in my brain I could see like the reason I thought it was a person approaching me was because I could see like the outline of a person, like a shadow. That was pretty unnerving.
Imagine when you're like, dude, there's like, get away. Oh, okay, there's no one there. Oh, okay. Like that's wild.
I saw a book fly across the room once there.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't hear this story.
Oh, you haven't heard this story? It's the only time I've ever experienced anything with Roy. So Roy is a spirit there who had gigantism, and he's like 7 feet tall. He's huge.
Oh wow!
And, he really likes women, so he like doesn't interact with men.
Okay.
But it was another tour night, and there was another female volunteer that was there, and everybody was sitting in his room, and he loved to read. Like he was like an avid reader, so there's like a library of books in his room, and she asked if Roy wanted us to read him a book, and the book just like flew off the bookshelf right into the middle of the room. There's like 7 people that saw this happen. There's nobody on that side of the room. Like it just like flew right into the side. And so we read the book to him because like, what do you do after?
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not only does he want us to read to him, he wants us to read this book, this book, and no other book. So like, that was a very
definitive answer.
that was a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah.
This is just turning into like what has happened to us at Rolling Hills Asylum.
Which I mean, the place sounds haunted as heck. So
yeah, we've just spent a lot of time there. So like you know, we've been other places and we've investigated other places, but like you know, you go to a building 100 times, you're gonna experience a lot more in that place than you know a place that you've been to. You know, if what is there is spirits, like they know us, like they're comfortable with us
for sure. If that's what's going on. So when you encounter these things that are potential spirits, do you feel like they might what's your theory on it? Like what's your running theory on it? Do you think that they're like impressions of people that have crossed over? Is it people that have died and can't make it to their side, or are they other, supernatural things like elementals or?
I have a pretty weird take on it.
Me and Jay, I think, have the same take on it, and
Let's
it is very weird.
But it's the only way I can rationalize it.
Okay.
Like, for me, it's
the multiverse theory.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the multiverse theory? So,
Yes.
for those who don't know, it's the idea that there are infinite parallel universes, and I like to think of these places that have increased paranormal activity as places where the space between dimensions is really thin.
Okay.
So there's communication happening between the dimensions, which is really mind-blowing to think about.
Okay, I can see that.
At the same time, I'm not 100%, like, you know what I mean? Then there's things happen where you're like, you have like residual hauntings where, you see.
Yeah, but what if the residual, see, this is why this makes more sense.
Is that a parallel universe where things just happen on a loop?
No, I just think that like with residual hauntings, the space between the universes isn't quite as thin as an intelligent haunt. So you're just kind of like briefly seeing into this world or universe, like for a second, but like they might not even be aware of you. Maybe they can't see through that wall or veil, whatever you want to call that.
Like a two-way mirror almost.
Yeah, it's like almost like a one-way mirror into that universe for some reason. And then, a lot of that's like, for me, it's just so hard to say that I'm talking to a dead person.
Right.
Like that is like really it sounds outlandish to me. And like there are more scientific there's more scientific reasoning for there being multiple universes than there being dead people being alive after death.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there is science for either theory that really proves or disproves that, but I feel like there is more science pointing to that concept. And I could be wrong, but in my head, that makes a lot more sense than you die, you become a ghost, and then you talk to me at Rolling Hill Society.
I'm always interested, and I'm always interested to hear what people think that they're encountering, because everybody has a different kind of viewpoint on that. And like some people are like said, like really scientific, where it's like, oh, it's it's totally just like this, and then some people it's very spiritual reason. Like, so I'm always interested to hear what if anything you think you may be encountering.
One interesting thing that kind of supports that theory, at least in my eyes, is like the whole the phenomena of doppelgangers.
Yeah.
So if there are multiple parallel universes, obviously there's probably me in those universes, and if people are glimpsing me through these little portals, like that could totally explain doppelgangers.
Yeah.
I'm actually a twin, so maybe it doesn't explain. It could just be twins.
I 100% encountered a doppelganger though, like 100%, like full on, like solid. Yeah, it's
awesome.
It's wild.
Kind of creepy, but yeah, wild.
It was don't get me wrong, it was creepy as hell.
I bet.
But it was wild. So, like, not something I was anticipating encountering. Like on a, you're doing like a paranormal investigation. I'm like, I'm ready to hear, EVP. I'm ready to pick up, stuff on SLS. Like, I'm ready for that. Was not prepared for full-bodied physical doppelganger. Wasn't on the checklist.
Yeah, right. So maybe this theory also explains how Sharon was able to call my name and not call my name at the same time, because in a parallel universe that is very similar to ours, she was calling.
Damn it, parallel Sharon.
Like,
how dare you?
Yeah, again, like this is just nobody knows anything about this. This is just our rationale for it. I mean, it's hard to come to grips with the paranormal and experiencing it and trying.
Because in a way it kind of forces us to confront our own mortality, which is never a comfortable place for people to be. So I think that's kind of part of that. It fascinates us yet terrifies us at the same time, because it reminds us that one day we'll die, and like maybe that'll be us. Like,
where are all the deceased paranormal investigators, and how come they're not giving us information? Do you think they cross over and there's like rules like, look,
I think they might be.
You can't say anything about this. This is our secret
Just
club
like,
up here in
shut up.
heaven or hell or wherever they are.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it, like
Fight
I've always had this weird thought that if like the multiverse theory does exist, that when you die, you return as yourself in a different universe. So you like live your life again in a different set
In
of
a different
circumstances.
yeah.
Like so, like in that, if there's infinite universes, then there's infinite life experiences, and this is just
True.
repeat.
Have you guys heard of the theory that we're all the same individual? So like Jay, you or me in a different lifetime.
Oh, that's a really cool one.
Every time you die, you get reincarnated as somebody else in history, but it's all the same person.
The same person.
And the idea behind it is that you're training for something. So it's like you're going through the motions of becoming wise by living billions and billions of lives over and over again until you reach some sort of enlightenment, and then you can go to heaven or wherever. There was like it was a short story, I think, actually, that I read, and then it like mapped it out in a very eloquent way that is probably way more interesting than how I just explained it. But it was like, I was like mind blown. I was like, holy shit, like that's crazy, you know, to think about that. Yeah, no, that creeps me out.
Yeah.
Really does.
Somebody in the chat just mentioned, I don't know if you guys are able to see the chat or not.
I don't think I can.
But
Hold on, maybe.
Oh, here they
Oh,
I
yeah,
can. If you
yeah.
hate comments, look at that.
somebody said, what quantum
Hey
physics,
everybody, I'm so sorry, I didn't even see you.
oh, no worries. And it said, what quantum physics proves with entanglement is that same matter can exist in two different places at the same time.
Look at that. See? There's
See?
that science.
Is that the thought behind astral projection?
Right. Yeah, because two things existing at the same time, like I said, or you said like or doppelgangers, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's so cool.
it's
turning into like a theoretical physics like
lecture.
brainstorm. Yeah, no, like that stuff is so cool.
Hi, Paranormal Boys. Hi. There's like people still kind of popping in. So.
Oh yeah, no, we see it. So there are two chats options in this program, and one's
We were in private chat.
We're in private chat. Oh, but if there's a question, I can always like bring it up onto the screen to kind of to show you guys, which we'll kind of do that at the end. Like if anyone has we'll do like a brief like Q&A kind of after we do the survey. So if anyone has questions for the guys, hold them till the end, to the last couple minutes, and then we'll go through some of those questions. So when you go to these locations and you know, when you're investigating, are you concerned about anything that's there following you home? And have you had anything follow you home, or you feel like something?
Go ahead, Jer. I don't think I'm not.
Yeah,
worried about it.
I don't know. There was a brief period of time, like after I had gone, after I was out. I think I was probably Rolling Hills, where I felt like something was in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I texted Sharon about it and Jay, and I was like, man, I feel like someone's in my house. Like, I just feel like I'm being watched all the time. I woke up one morning with scratch marks on my arm. Totally could have been me, you know what I mean? But it's not something it's like never something I wake up with. Right. So it was pretty different. It was like a different experience than what I'm normal, like what's normal. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And then it just went away. But I don't know. I've heard crazy stories, but yeah. One really good way I like to think about it, and actually Steve from Ghost Nation told us this, and he was like, I only verify experiences that happen to myself. Like even if it happened to like someone I know, someone I work with very closely, like sure they could have thought that happened, but like you know, so I always hear other people's stories about things following them home and possession. I'm like maybe I don't know. I really don't know, I guess is my answer.
I mean, I've had something I've had something happen follow me home, but I also, the only reason I even noticed it is because I have cats, and I had one animal that started acting particularly strange. So to the point that she wouldn't come into the bedroom, where she normally had no problem with that. Like she would stop at the threshold of the bedroom and just refuse to come in. So that's something that I was like, okay, yeah, cats are weird, but that's out of her behavior. Because, you know, I've had her since she was a month old. So I'm like, I know her normal acting. And I know cats are weird little creatures, but that was so out of her behavior script that I was like, okay, that's odd. That's something that's weird.
I've never had anything follow me home.
You know,
But I mean, we typically, like, when we leave a place, like, we'll just say, like, pretty forcefully that nothing's allowed to follow us home. Like, that's like just part of my like paranormal. It's the only like paranormal ritual that I have is
that you do.
I leave a location. I'm just like, you can't follow me home. Like,
yeah, you can't. You have to stay here. Sorry.
Yeah, like, and I don't know. It makes me. I don't know that I would feel weird not doing it, but I just have done it. You know, my first investigation, somebody told me, like, every time we leave, we just say this, and I've just done it ever since. I haven't had anything follow me home. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I feel like I'm not as open as a lot of people are. Like, people used to call me the black hole. Like, there would be like something happening in a room, and I would walk into it and just suck all the energy out of the room. So I don't know that I am the best.
I'm glad that's changed.
Yeah, either that or like stuff that we experience is just super strong. I don't know. Like for me, I have not experienced anything trying to attach itself to me or follow me.
Just like, at least, I mean, hey, like you said, at least that doesn't happen anymore. Because otherwise, it'd be like so much activity. Jay walks in and gone.
It would be very hard to make our show.
Yeah, right. Like, Jay, leave.
Get out of the room. Some people are like paranormal magnets, and then some people, like, honestly are just like, I think there's just something about them that just like like it just is repelled to them. So yeah, let's so since I thought neither of you probably feel that your houses are haunted, then I know, Jeremiah, you mentioned at one point you thought it might have been, but it kind of stopped.
Well, that was a different house.
Oh, okay. Have you ever lived in a haunted house, like, or a house that you had strange stuff happen in that you're like can't explain?
Here we are in my house. So my wife and I bought this house 6 months, it was a year ago. Wow. Pardon my French. I don't know if we can curse on this, but I'll try not.
We're not monetized yet, so you're good.
So my wife and I bought this house about a year ago. It was built in 1935, and being mildly skeptical, you know, and always looking for other reasons things can happen. I'm not going to say this place is haunted, but it totally is haunted. So, and the week we moved in, my wife denies this, by the way. She's even called me too, and like, I'll get to that. I'll start from the beginning. Then, like, 2 days after we moved in, I'm upstairs in my bedroom, and I just hear doors slamming downstairs. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I thought someone was in the house, and I'm like,
right.
I don't know. You know, it was like a new house. You know, we just moved in. I'm like, what? Like, this is what I have to deal with now? So I go downstairs, and nothing. Like, none of the doors were different than how, like, everything was exactly as we left it.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, that's weird. Another night, I'm lying in bed on my phone, and I have to clarify, like, I was not asleep. Like, I was literally on Facebook, and I was in bed, and I heard a woman's voice in my room, and she said a one-syllable word. I can't even remember what it is because I wasn't prepared for it. It just happened, and I reacted. You know, people react way after the fact usually, and I was just like, did I just hear someone's, like, it was totally a woman's voice in the room.
Something?
I turned on music, put in headphones, and put the blanket over my head.
And just
because,
nope.
Yeah, I mean, and this is after quite a lot of experience paranormal investigating. But it's like, just when things, well, one, it's your house. Like, I live here.
Right,
like,
you live here.
And two, and when you're not expecting it, is like when it really catches you off guard. That's when it really. For sure. Anyway, so we you might recognize this room because this is where we film. This is where we film all the segments of us sitting on the couch. I'll show you the couch, but it's my living room's a mess right now. So we filmed a B segment called Postmortems, is what we're calling it. It's kind of like a team wrap up of the episode where we each talk individually. We haven't released it yet. We filmed it in my basement, which is hella creepy. And I could probably tell this whole story, right, Jay?
Yeah, you could do it.
Yeah, so we're going to be releasing this video probably in the next week or two. So just just keep an eye out for it. So we're in the basement doing one-on-one interviews with all of us, and Jay was interviewing our camera guy Austin, and me and Reese were standing in the back just watching or whatever, and we just hear whispers behind us. So like me and Reese are just both like what is that? And then Jay turns around and is like, guys, we're filming. Can you stop talking? And we're like, it's not us. So
You're not talking.
And we definitely don't recommend you do this at home for many reasons, but we decided to do an EVP session. Please don't investigate your homes. It's not a great.
I mean, please don't do this.
Yeah. Just disclaimer. Like we did it. Don't try this at home. We did an EVP session and got an intelligent response with vocal tone and everything in my basement, and I was like,
like
this is my house.
And I have to go upstairs and go to sleep now. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to say if it's definitely haunted. There's some weird shit that happens here.
Stuff. Yeah.
I don't know, and it's like there's like I always feel like somebody's watching, like all the time. And if I leave the house, that feeling goes away.
So weird stuff. We're not sure. We're not 100% sure. My cat's
yeah.
I'd be interested to check the EMF in your house to see if there's like a fear cage going on.
Yeah, there might be some weird. I mean, the house was built in 1935, and it's old. I mean, it's really old. If you look, I don't know, like these are like
died in the house,
steel frame windows and like big cast iron radiators and old electric. So that's kind of why, like in the back of my head, I'm like, maybe it's just the house making noises. But in EVP, I can give this away. You guys get a sneak peek. But in the EVP, I say, what are you doing in my house? And the response is nothing. And it's just a man's voice, vocal tone and everything. It wasn't really a whisper. It was just a man's voice that said nothing.
Oh, wow.
And that was
that
was a little tricky. I don't know. So I don't know. There might be an investigation here in the future, perhaps. And then
definitely
we will do it right. We'll have a priest come and sage it when we're done.
Yeah, make sure
because
the door to anything that
Exactly. You really don't want to do these things in your own house generally, unless you're a paranormal investigator who has their own YouTube channel.
Easy location to investigate.
Yeah, convenient.
Don't need to ask permission. Hey, me, is it okay? Yep, it's cool.
Yeah. Plus, I got snacks. So
there you go.
Yeah, we'll have the best catering during that episode.
Right, it'll be the best.
Maybe Burger King.
So speaking of EVP, I have a couple clips pulled up from the Nightmare Manor episode. The first one, I believe, is an EVP one. So let me see if I can actually get this to work. I did it last time. I have faith in myself that I can do it again.
Awesome.
Technology.
So let's see. We're going to do...
I'm reading these comments, and there's some great ones, too.
That is not the right one.
The Nope Room. That's amazing.
The Nope Room? Yeah, I like the Nope Room one. So,
Jerry, you're offering to sleep in the Nope Room, right?
Well, I'm reading the comments, and someone said that they have an entire room in their basement that they just leave alone. They call it the Nope Room.
The Nope Room? I love that.
I would totally sleep in your... That sounds weird.
I would totally sleep in your... Wait.
Hold on. Yeah.
So actually this one, so I'm gonna see if I can get it to like pick up the correct tab really quick. Actually, you know what? We'll just watch this one first.
Sweet.
So this one's in the organ room. So we're gonna watch this one.
Nothing like. Oh my God! It mapped in just as that happened. Is that you? Can you do that one more time for us? This was so crazy to experience. The SLS mapping in a figure right as the REM pod goes off. It's exactly what I was hoping to happen by using the SLS at that point.
At first, we thought it could have been just randomly matrixing all the. There were like weird, almost scrolls and candles like up on top of the organ.
But it was mapping in on the curtains, number one, which was really strange. And when we changed angles, it mapped in the same exact spot. Right. So, I mean, it could be something paranormal. It's really strange that all of these things lined up at the exact right times. And you put your hand out, too.
I put my hand out there, I was looking for cold spots. It definitely felt odd. It was a while ago.
You mentioned that, too.
Yeah, it's like the electricity feeling, right? Like you feel like there's electricity on your hand.
It also felt kind of heavy.
Yeah,
like
right.
The pressure felt different in that area.
Right. And right after that, we caught this amazing EVP. just as it happened.
Is that you? Can you do that one more time for us?
So that was a pretty. I was like, you had all three happen, which was pretty intensely crazy. So you had that map in the same spot twice, and then the REM pod going off as the figure appears, plus then the EVP at the end. So it was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's the sort of stuff that I love, when you can get multiple pieces of equipment going off and doing things at the same time. Like that to me is like a really like a crazy moment. And like the SLS is a cool piece of gear, but it's inherently hard to back up. There's a lot of kind of false positives you get with it, and it's visually interesting. So when we use it, we try to either back up another piece of equipment with using it to like back up something else that's happening, or if you can communicate with something through it, I think that's a little bit more compelling. But it is I have a hard time with the SLS sometimes because it's, you know, inherently you can get a lot of false positives.
Right. But when you have, like you were saying, like when you have a couple things confirming basically what it's seeing, you know, different and through different measurements, you know, through different methods of measurement, you're getting, you know, not only are you getting audio phenomena, but you're getting like, you know, the REM pod coming like confirming what's going on. So I was like, when I saw that episode, I was like, wow, that was like, and then just the whisper of people. I was like, like what?
I mean, that's what, like that is why, like even in that moment alone, like I think we knew as we were making the episode that it would end up being an episode, because it was just so
lucky too with that place, because like most of the network shows, they're at these locations for a week, you know, shooting stuff. So it's very rare that just you walk into a place and it's just like nonstop, you know, activity from the minute you get in until you leave. Like Jay said, we were really, I mean, we were there maybe 6 hours.
Wow, and you guys got a ton.
Because it was, you know, it's not really a place. I mean, like we're the first team to investigate that place. Like it's not like a haunted attraction. It well, technically it is, but it's not like a paranormal. Like people don't go like paranormal investigating there. It's so we were like working within the time limits of the owner, and he's like, yeah, unfortunately, you guys got to be out of here by a certain time. So we were only there for what, 6 hours, and I personally, like Jay said earlier, I did not expect I didn't expect anything out of it. I was like, you know, like it's a creepy big building with a lot of sets because it's a theatrical haunted house. I'm like, you know, who knows, you know, if this guy Troy is you know, just hearing things or seeing things just because of like it's creepy just to begin with.
Right.
Oh man, but like after spending the night there, like that place has some stuff, and some really cool stuff happening.
And Monroe County Paranormal Investigations just said hi in the comments, and also we are agreeing with them. They're saying to not investigate your own.
Yeah, they said
we did mention that before.
Don't do that.
Don't do it.
They said don't do that yourself. Don't do that. Did you guys experience any physical sensations when you were in that room when the with that happening?
Jay did.
Yeah, I was, and that was really strange for me because I'm usually not physically affected by much. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've felt like I felt during that episode. And there's a moment in the episode where I'm just saying I can't even describe the way that I'm feeling. I was like very lightheaded, very like I couldn't form sentences even that like made sense. It was very strange. And I'm not like I said, that doesn't really happen to me. I'm usually pretty like I usually have it together. Not so that took me by surprise. And it was kind of right in the midst when all that was happening. We were having a lot of activity with the REM pod going off.
Yeah.
I think we were getting a bunch of EVPs around that time too. It was like literally like this burst of activity in this room. for, I mean, we were probably in that room for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And like from the moment we walked in, it started, and
Just didn't seem like it stopped.
it was like steady, and then it kind of just like dissipated after an hour and a half or so. And yeah, I mean, I did feel something, and you can see it.
Yeah.
It's hard because, you know, people that don't know me don't know what I'm like usually, but that is not how I.
But that's not you're not like that at all.
Yeah, I'm not usually the one being like, oh my God, I feel so weird. I'm usually like, well, why do you feel weird? To somebody else who's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was weird. You know, I did not expect that from you. I expected that, you know, from me or Reese, you know, our camera operators is like that too. But, you know, it had a thick air to it. Like you walked into it, the room, and it just felt very different. And I didn't have the physiological change that Jay's, you know, describing or has experienced. But I mean, the whole time, like, you know, I was feeling cold spots and chills and just uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I look over at Jay and he's like, oh my. I'm like, are you okay? And, you know, he's like, I don't even know. I've never experienced it before. So very cool.
Very cool. So the other two, your tech guys, Reese and Austin, do they believe in spirits, or are they kind of on this side of being skeptics as well?
I think they're both pretty skeptical. Reese, I think, is more skeptical than Austin by nature. Like, I think when Reese came into this, he didn't believe in any of it. He was just like, oh, he's a videographer for like, you know, PBS and stuff. So he, like, that's his job. Like, he loves it. So he's like, oh, this is great. Like, I'll make films. I love making films. This is going to be awesome. And there's actually a clip from our episode where I heard a disembodied voice from behind, like it came from like behind where Reese was standing. He just looked terrified and so uncomfortable. And I love moments like that because, I mean, not that I want my friends and colleagues to feel uncomfortable, but it almost kind of it validates my own feelings a little bit, because I'm like, if this is someone who doesn't believe in this stuff at all, and he's having this type of visceral reaction to something that we just all collectively experienced, like, it makes me feel like, and almost
okay, yeah, like maybe
we're initiating him into the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
I would say they're both pretty skeptical though, but they're very open-minded about it too, which is really great. And I think it's important because, like, I don't necessarily, I'll never come out and say anything is definitely paranormal one way or another, because I don't know. And I guess that in theory would make me pretty skeptical as well. I think that's a really good quality to have when you're investigating, because, you know, there could be a million reasons for anything. And I think trying to like sort out, you know, what's a possible explanation, and then if you can't figure out any reason that something's happening, I mean, that's what we look for when we're doing this. So really having those two other perspectives, they're really great sounding boards, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
We were actually
about stuff, and they're like, you know, we'll get excited about something, and Austin will be like, dude, that's breathing or something, and then we'll go back and reevaluate it, and we're like, yeah, okay.
We actually thought after leaving Nightmare Manor that we weren't going to get Reese to come back to do more.
Oh no!
Jay, do you want to tell her about the diner afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
We went to a diner like right after we left the investigation, and we were just sitting, like, it was, I call it the paranormal hangover, but like when you're in like a super active place, like there's a lot of like kind of crazy energy, like you feel very drained afterwards. And so we're all just like sitting like kind of quietly at this diner, like we had just seen a ghost. Like it was like that. Like, it was like very, very draining. And I just remember I remember saying to Reese, I was like, Reese, you gonna do this again, or is that it for you?
Or are you packing it up and done?
You know what I really think? Did it for Reese is we got an EVP that we ended up debunking after the fact.
Oh yeah, that's true.
This was in between us debunking it, because we'll often do like, we'll do burst EVP sessions. So we'll ask, 5-10 questions tops, and then we'll go back and listen, and then we'll just see if there's any intelligent responses, and we think that'll help maybe facilitate conversation. But a lot of the listening, we're either listening back in earbuds or just straight out of our voice recorders. So while we're actually there, we don't say, we always wait until we bring it back into the computer to really say for sure. We got one, and it was a man's voice that said murder, just like that. And
okay.
Well, it ended up being Jay muttering something, so we were able to debunk it. Because one good thing about our production style is that each person has a camera on them at all times, and we all are close mics. We all have our own lav mics. So if we hear something, we can go and isolate everybody's mic and see like which mics they're coming from. Is that person moving their mouth when that sound is coming into their microphone?
Gotcha.
So we ended up debunking it. It was Jay, like, I think you just like muttered something, and but it totally sounded like murder.
Yeah, it did.
Yes. we listened to it back while we were in the van. We were just pulling out of the parking lot, going to the diner. So I feel like the disembodied voice and then the murder EVP, I really thought we broke Reese.
If it had been a real murder EVP, he'd probably not come back.
Yeah, that was a bummer. There's so much that didn't make it into the episode either because we debunked it as something else, and it's hard to not be able to show. If we showed everything that we thought we caught, or in the process of debunking it, like the episode would have been like 3 hours long.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot of stuff that we could be like, I don't know if this is somebody muttering something, and we are like, if there's ever a chance that it could have been one of us, we'll just like instantly throw it away.
Instantly go like, nope.
Yeah,
we actually so the evidence that we presented in the episode, I think that was probably maybe 25% of the evidence we collected, because we just have a really high standard for what we're presenting.
Right.
And I think that's really important when you're doing this. Like we're not in it for, and I'm not saying other shows are, but sometimes you watch some of the shows and you're like, oh, that, like they're just hamming it up for the camera or whatever. And
yeah.
Like one thing, like going into this for us, we're like we're all about the investigation. Like we're not looking to just make an entertaining TV show. Like we really want to document our adventures and our investigations, and really just provide like as genuine of evidence as we can to our viewers and just the community in general. Because if we're not doing that, I feel like we're not doing our part. It's like we're just trying to be like responsible and
and you're not trying to make like a sensational, and then there are channels that do that are like, they're basically entertainment, and they'll say that that's what they are, so it's like, but you're not trying to do that. You're trying to present you're gathering your best evidence and presenting it to people and going, this is, a quarter of what we got. This is the stuff we legit couldn't explain. What do you think? What you guys
we love that. And one of my favorite parts about it is when people watch our episode and they'll email us or message us or comment or something, and they're like, oh, this EVP kind of sounds like this. And then like, I love going back and listening because, our interpretation might not be right. I feel
sometimes it isn't in the moment where you're like, that sounds like it is. And then when you listen to it later, you're like, oh, that's not what that was.
Well, you always got to like take into consideration like pareidolia and stuff, and just think like your ears could be hearing what they want to hear.
Right.
Your brain's putting together sounds and visuals based on a context in which you're experiencing in the moment. So I love getting people's perspectives who weren't there, who are literally just looking at our evidence, how we presented it, and being like, you said it says this. I hear this. I love when people are engaged and participating, because it almost feels like they're part of the team.
Oh, for sure. You get those people that sit there with the noise canceling headphones and try to capture like stuff that was like, or when they capture like, hey, I caught something here at this time and this time that you guys maybe didn't notice.
Yeah.
They catch stuff that you miss, too. So it's always great to have those extra sets of ears and eyes. Because it's impossible for us to catch everything.
Exactly.
And you could be there and miss stuff, and people are like, "Hey, did you do this?" You're like, wait, no, I didn't catch that. And I was standing there. So for
especially
sure,
EVPs. I feel like EVPs kind of play in feel like they're often in these very odd frequencies that are very subtle. And they're not always in the same frequencies. So I feel like if you're not listening for it, you just don't hear them.
You just miss it.
Yeah, but then there's also the flip side. It's like, well, if they're not loud enough for you to notice it when you're not paying attention, are they really good EVPs? It's like, like I don't know. It must take a lot of power and energy to be able to communicate through something for a spirit. Otherwise, they'd be doing it all the time, you know. So
for sure. So speaking of EVP, I'm gonna try to pull up the one I tried to pull up the first time, but it for some reason picked a random tab. So we're going to try this again. Ooh, oh God, am I gonna pick the right one? I think I picked the wrong one. I tried to blame the program. That's what happened. I tried to blame the program and it was me.
I feel like my beard is so short there. I have like quarantine beard going here.
So this one, so we're gonna share screen. So I'm pretty sure this one was an EVP as well. I took refer. Yes. So this one is a very like definitive for sure. Like I was even like, whoa, because I mean, a lot of EVPs are one word, so sometimes it's easy to go like, oh, was that somebody breathing or was that somebody like a mutter? This one was real hard to discount.
Let's see that. I keep getting like blasts of cold air, I feel like. What the hell was that?
Maybe it's just us moving.
No, it's... Oh my God! There was a sentence.
Oh my God! Hold on.
It's like.
What did they say?
So creepy.
If there's somebody here with us, can you make a noise, any sign, just to tell us that you're here?
So that was wild.
That was a cool one.
It's kind of hard to hear through the stream, but if you go back and watch the actual episode, it's a little clearer.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a little hard to hear it through the stream, but it's definitely multiple words, and it was definitely a full sentence. It's not just one of those like single word EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
That one's at 15:30 if anybody wants to go watch it. That's the minute and time that it's at in the episode. But definitely with headphones, listen to that one. But you can definitely hear a sentence for sure. So I was like, whoa, with that one.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell just how excited we are when we heard it back on the recorder.
The fact that you're like, what was that? And you were like, I think that was us moving. And then he plays it and you go, what was that?
Yeah, I mean, that's like always my first. Whenever I hear any like whisper, I'm like, we're moving around. But then when you hear it, when you actually like hear it, and you're like, oh,
right.
Because I heard the voice, and I was like, that is totally not us moving. Because sometimes you can't differentiate just between like rustling or even just like when you're wearing like mics and stuff, or if you have a voice recorder close to your like face,
moving,
even just like doing like this, like makes noises, like just opening and closing your mouth. So, but this, I heard it and I was like blown away.
We're not moving at all.
I was like, we're all sitting here quiet, but yeah, that was one of the better. I think that was probably one of the longest EVPs we've probably gotten in that clarity.
And it was pretty clear. So like when you guys at the beginning of the episode, you guys do like a little bit of a history like section about the location that you're at. How much history and research do you do on locations prior to an investigation? Do you guys like to dive into it too deep, or do you guys kind of like to leave a lot of it to mystery just so it doesn't color what you're gonna go find?
I like to do a lot.
Okay.
I think that if there are two schools of thought on it, because it could very well color your interpretation of what you experience. But I like to know, on the flip side of that, knowing the name of somebody who lived there or who worked there or something can really like open up a lot of activity in the location. Like, if you're,
you can ask for them by name or like,
if you like, I feel like sometimes that can help more than
hinder. Okay.
Exactly. It's tough for us too, because as there's only 4 of us and we're like the sole producers of the show too, if we don't do that research before we go into it, we don't know if there's enough to do an episode.
Right.
So like, it would be hard for us to not do that research. I don't think, Reese and Austin don't always know the depth of it. And I think Jeremiah, I do most of the research, I would say. Maybe not all of it. I don't know. But I feel like I probably have the most knowledge going into most of our investigations because
It would be an interesting thing to try, though, at some point.
Yeah, maybe like one of us know and the other
know the history, and then send in the rest like kind of blind.
For sure, yeah. One person does like the research on it, and the other person doesn't do any. And see if it like the details like match up.
Yeah.
Because it is a double-edged sword for sure, because you do want to learn about a location, but at the same time you don't want to learn so much that it can taint your investigation. You know, and you're looking for these things, and instead of just being open to whatever's happening.
Right, and then you can also like we were saying with EVPs, like then all of a sudden you're hearing the responses based on history and the evidence,
based on stuff you already know.
Ends up becoming like biased. That's a good point. I never really thought of it. See, for me, half of it is trying to like validate some experiences I had when I was a kid, and the other half is I just love old buildings and history. And I have actually a picture of this house when we bought it. The only thing that the owner really left in the house was a little 4x6 photo of the house 2 years after it was built. And it's like my favorite thing in the house. So that stuff like just fascinates me, and like I love trying to figure out like places that were remodeled or renovated. Like, oh, what did it look like when it was built? What was what was this room? And so that part always really interests me. But I really do I never really thought about it in that regard, where it's like, oh, but maybe our knowledge is kind of coloring what the evidence is.
Right.
Yeah. I think a big part for us too is that when doing an investigation, I'm way more interested in other people's paranormal experiences than I am necessarily in the history of the building. So like, I don't ever want to investigate a place just because it's old and might look haunted. Like I would rather be investigating places where people have experienced things and are looking for an answer to what is going on there, or looking for their own validation that they're not crazy, or knowing somebody else's experiences in a location, I think is more important to me than knowing the history, but I also like knowing the history as well.
I would even say that like people's experiences just add to the history of the place,
Yeah.
And I kind of think of that all as one bucket. But yeah, like I don't know if we would necessarily dive into a place where people weren't experiencing anything just because it looked creepy. Yeah. I would urban explode, go explore as long as I'm not like breaking any laws or anything, But yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it's a little unusual for a Halloween attraction to be haunted anyway. But again, you guys picked up a ton of evidence there. And do you think such a thing is attributed to what may have been there prior? Because obviously
linens and things.
Someone died in the linens and things. They were trampled during a sale.
Well, it's a big strip mall.
Yeah.
And
you guys know what was there before that? Like you guys talked about a little bit was a swamp.
It was a swamp. Somebody said that it might have been a Native American burial ground, but there's like, I don't like, somebody said that to us, but it was so like removed from. It's such speculation.
It was
like
more speculative than
there was no way for us to really know, and like it didn't feel right to include in the episode because it just nothing that we experienced seemed to really
like
point to that, or like. To me, it just seemed like not credible information.
Right. So it's like more like
it might be. It could very well be true, but like there is just not. I don't know where it came from, so I didn't feel comfortable in saying that this was, you know.
Well, I even remember like when we were doing the research for this, we were like, it's not, you know, we based the entire episode on one person's experiences, so it's not a place that is ever investigated. So it's not like there's a huge well of other like people's experiences to like pull from. So we're like scouring the internet, and it's not like an old historic building. It's like a strip mall that was built. Yeah, so we're like literally scouring the internet looking for stuff, and it's like, oh, I'm like the only thing I could find is like some guy, like there was a car accident, like a fatality in a car accident, like whatever 20 years ago. But I'm like, it's the only thing I could find.
Yeah.
So I really don't know what happened there. There are a lot of things. So the owner of Troy, other than, you know, he, first of all, the haunted house is beautiful. Like he did such an excellent job of creating the sets and
it's really good.
Creating the spectacle
for sure.
But he has like acquired a lot of really cool objects. So if you go back and watch the episode, the room that we were showing clips from, we were calling it the organ room. There's this old like you know, almost something you'd see in like a small church, you know. And Troy, the owner, told us that it came from a funeral home, and then there was also like a genuine casket in the room also. So it kind of like makes you think like, are these spirits or experiences attached to some objects?
To the objects, yeah, because the backstory, the backstory of the building itself, like there really isn't anything. So it's like, are these, you know, things, like you said, attached to the things that have been brought into the building rather than the building or the ground itself that it sits on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, and honestly, in future episodes, they're going to be a little bit deeper dives into the history, but like with this specific location, there just wasn't a lot of history to go off of. So you know, the history of these places sometimes is so like just as compelling to me as the paranormal activity. So I really do want to kind of dive deeper into the history of some of these places as we're exploring them as well. So I think in the future you'll see a little bit more on the history side of stuff when there is that history to be told.
Right. For that story to be told a little bit. And you said you guys walk through a location. You guys do a walkthrough before you set up any equipment to get a feel off of certain areas. You're using your body as a primary instrument. So kind of describe the process of that. Like, what feelings are you looking for when you walk the location?
It's kind of like an uneasiness. So like our bodies are like pretty great at detecting changes in our environment, like temperature, you know, static electricity, stuff like that, changes in light and sound. And I feel like a lot of those subtleties like aren't necessarily like picked up by our conscious, but more just like our subconscious is our brains operating. And so I think it translates into like, it just feels weird. It's like that creepy feeling. And we never rely on that to present evidence. But we always use it as like a compass as to where we should start. And it seems to pay off usually. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I got in the habit of doing that when we were doing tours at Rolling Hills Asylum. Like I would go in, like, because the crazy thing about that place is that I feel like the activity there is never in the same place. It's always moving around the building. So like I would, before the tour, I would just walk around the building alone and feel like, okay, I just feel a weird vibe here. Like this is like where I will take a team to investigate, like, and, you know, so that's where like that idea for us kind of stemmed from. It's just kind of trusting your body to feel changes in the environment. And, you know, like Jeremiah says, it doesn't always, you know, work, but that's just how we kind of like to start. Is going off of that. And then, you know, once we feel that, that's when we get out the equipment and we say, okay, let's see if we can back up these feelings with some sort of quantifiable evidence.
Right. So now the rooms that you guys ended up in, were those the rooms that you got those feelings off of? Like the Exorcist Room, the organ room? So
the Exorcist Room, Jerry, you felt something when we first walked in there, right?
Yeah.
That's why
we did a quick walk. We did a pretty quick walk through first at Nightmare Manor, just because we didn't have a lot of time. like ideally we would have twice as much time at least, but we only had a few hours, 6 hours there. So we did a quick walkthrough, and the first room that we felt that feeling in was the what we called the Exorcist Room. We got a few pieces of evidence there. We actually got a really good EVP that said take that, or at least that's what we thought it said. If you go back and watch the episode, you can check it out. I feel like after that, so the way this haunted house works is it's like a single track, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you start in one spot and you have to walk through for the most part, the whole thing to get to the end, because it's a maze. It's only meant to go in one direction. So after the Exorcist Room, we just kind of continued along until we felt another room that felt similarly, and that's when we got to the organ room. So it was a little different, and the thing is too is if sometimes things change. So if we're in like a location and we're like, oh, I'll just walk through the building, and we're like, okay, well these are the spots we should do. We might visit them like an hour or two later and feel nothing.
Right, and the feelings changed.
Yeah, so it's constantly just adapting and changing our strategy. And another reason I really like that approach is I feel like there's a very spiritual and I'm trying to think of a good word for it. I feel like communicating with paranormal entities or spirits or whatever they may be, it's a very emotional and spiritual thing. And I feel like really being in tune with your own body and your own feelings is important to really get the most out of it. So it's kind of bold. I find it to be like also very beneficial in that regard too, because you're kind of opening yourself up a little bit while doing it.
Oh, definitely.
Really tuning into the building, tuning into what's happening.
So to the feelings that are going on. So speaking of organ room, I think we have one more clip that is from the organ room. So let me get that queued up. There's only one tab this time, so I can't pick the wrong one. All right. Whoa.
It's a weird B-roll shot.
It is a little
Is it?
bit. I was like trying to find a good place to like start the clip.
Very distracted. Okay. All right. If that's you, could you take your hand away from that, please? Thank you.
And immediately stops. It's like
that happened all night.
all night long.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was a kind of a brief clip, but that one was like, it was crazy because that happened several times.
Yeah.
Several different spots where you asked it to stop touching the REM pod, and immediately a couple seconds afterwards it stopped.
Yeah. So what you'll notice when you watch the episode that we try to communicate with whatever's there with the REM pod, asking if it could turn it on, and we not once in the times that we asked would it turn it on. But every time we asked it to turn off, it would.
It did.
And we were thinking that it's possible that whatever is there is kind of behaving like it's a haunted house. Like imagine if you were walking through that as like a theatrical haunted house.
Right.
Somebody would be trying to scare you. So maybe whatever there is trying to like catch us off guard. But also in a haunted house, if you get so freaked out that you're like, stop, please stop, like they would stop.
They'll go, oh, sorry. Yeah,
exactly. So like it felt kind of like that mischievous sort of like, I'm trying to catch you. Like, I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to surprise you.
Right.
But if you tell me to stop, stop.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just how it felt. I don't, who knows?
There was a few instances where actually it wasn't entirely the case. So like later on when we were using the SLS, there were times where I was, the figures were mapping in, and we were still trying to discern whether or not it was just like, matrixing or something weird where it's like picking up random things and just the camera's doing its own thing. But then it started reacting to some like intelligent questions. We're like, hey, can you do that again? And it would just pop up.
And it would do that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it started interacting with the REM pod while it was, it was like figure on the SLS right over the REM pod. The REM pod goes off. We're getting EVPs, the people one that you showed earlier. So I don't know. There there did seem to be a bit of a pattern where it did seem kind of mischievous, and it was like trying to catch you off guard. And then, but I would say toward the end of at least our time in the organ room, it maybe it got comfortable with us. And there were a few moments where we're like, hey, can you do that again? And they would just appear in the SLS. And like Jay said, like SLS evidence is often hard to really, I don't know how I feel about SLS. It's very visual and very cool, and I really like it. But, you know, apart from supporting evidence, I would say it's not something that we would ever really just present straight up.
Right. They're just that directly. Yeah. So I know the pandemic obviously has been a bit of a challenge, but where do you guys plan on going next? Can you give us a little preview of what you have planned for your next, when everything is safe to go do, location?
The White House.
Definitely.
The White House. He's saying we got the White House, guys. We got it.
Lined it up. It's
We have a
happening.
great booking agent.
Done.
We're definitely going to be doing Rolling Hills Asylum. That is happening.
That has to happen. As much as you guys have like talked about it, I feel like that has to be an episode.
It will be. It will be at some
Been a
point.
minute since I've been there because of the pandemic also. So it might be
Yeah.
like really great because no one's been there, and I'm sure the
Be like,
spirits there are probably like,
it's because no
They
one's
did. They are
there.
open now. They're doing socially distanced tours if anybody's interested in going to Rolling Hills.
For sure.
They're open for business.
Go if you're near there. Go.
yeah, go.
Yeah, hell, every pretty much every single dollar that goes into like a tour just goes in right back into the building. It's a massive undertaking to
Oh, for sure.
maintain
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure. Like I said,
60,000 square feet. So.
and I'm sure the spirits that are in there are probably a little bit starved for attention right now because no one's been in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
totally.
be crazy active right now. So
So that will be an episode. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't want to say anything that isn't like absolutely confirmed.
There
There's a
are
lot
a
of
few
places
museums. We'll say that
Yeah.
okay,
there's more than one museum.
Mhm.
okay, very cool.
There is we had a bunch that were sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Most of them are museums.
Most of the museums. It's okay. We can just leave it at that.
We'll
We can
leave it at that.
It's fine.
There's the museums. There's Rolling Hills for sure, and
maybe a residence, but we don't
maybe
need
a
to-
residence. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. Even though we said not to.
That is a big. Well, the reason we say not to investigate your own home is because and the Monroe County Paranormal Investigators also mentioned this. I just lost my key light.
Oh no.
Get out. Hold on. I'm gonna put it in. Yeah, Jeremiah, you can continue saying why we don't do this.
Yeah, so the reason you don't want to open yourself up to something that could be malicious, or you just don't know. And Monroe County Paranormal said it great. Like you don't really know what's in your house, and
Right.
if you make them aware that you're aware of their existence, it could open the door to a lot of weird stuff. And while that might not be the case, and it might be completely harmless, there is the possibility that it could be the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's really not something that you want to be experiencing in a place that should be a refuge.
For sure.
I think that there's a thing about like coexistence where it's kind of like you just they're there, but you just don't interact with them. So if you're having, I would say if you are experiencing things in your own home, call like Monroe County Paranormal said, call a team, call in people who know what they're doing, or get some advice, even at the very least. You should not be living in conditions that are uncomfortable or scary. Definitely call out and get help from people who do this, who do this professionally and have a lot of experience doing this. And we just don't recommend, I feel like most paranormal investigators will just tell you straight up, we won't recommend you investigate your own house. I know someone was commenting, asking why, and obviously we're not like the paranormal police. If you do this in your own house, we're not gonna be knocking on the door yelling at you. But
what are you doing? Stop it.
We strongly recommend that you don't, because who knows? You don't know what you're opening the door to. And honestly, do you want to find out?
Yeah. Do you really
Like,
want
that's your house,
So I do have some survey questions for you guys briefly. These are surprise questions. You don't know these questions. You haven't seen these questions. You have not been sent these questions.
Ooh,
so I kind of want the quick knee-jerk reaction to these questions. All
Awesome.
right. So question number 1, whose spirit would you want to encounter if you could choose?
Living or dead? Or like, do they have to be dead?
Rodney Dangerfield.
Right.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's a good one.
Then I'll go out. I'll say Gene Wilder.
Ooh.
Good choices.
I don't know if you know this. Jay and I are really into SNL and comedy. So
Yeah.
It shows. You guys are comedians. You guys
we don't take ourselves seriously at all.
I was gonna say Harrison Ford. Like, that's what jumped into my head. He's not dead.
He's not
I mean,
I asked if you're dead.
Oh, he
He's
did.
dead.
He did die in a few movies, but I don't want to.
True. Yeah. So what is your best piece of advice for investigators just getting started into doing paranormal investigations?
Use your phone. Your cell phone.
Yeah.
A lot of people are intimidated because you watch all these shows and they have all this gear. You don't need it. It helps, but you absolutely don't need it. I mean, your phone has a voice recorder, a camera, a video camera, a flashlight. It is a killer tool. And to touch base on that really quick, if you are one of those people who uses those ghost hunting apps, that's great. I personally, not really. I don't really think that they're really useful. But if you seem to use them and you're having fun, great. That's great. And get out there and do it. Just start doing it.
Another thing I would say is be patient. There's a lot of sitting around. There's a lot of nothing happening.
A lot of listening to nothing.
The thing about the shows that you watch, and ours included, is that they are edited to show you the most exciting moments. There is a lot of time when you're just sitting in silence, asking questions to nothing. And that is a part of it. And sometimes you can be sitting in a room for a whole hour and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden stuff just happens. So patience is key. It's not as exciting as it looks all the time. Sometimes it can be. Like, sometimes it's crazy. It's not always that way.
Sometimes twiddling your thumbs in the dark.
A lot of waiting.
And don't leave a room after like 5 minutes. Like,
Right.
really give whatever room you're in or wherever you are investigating, give it a chance. Give it a good half an hour, an hour. Obviously, like if literally you're in the room and it's like, this place, I don't feel any weird vibes, and you want to move, that's totally fine. But we've had the most success by like sticking it out.
Yeah.
Like if you're there for 5 minutes and you leave, and then you're in another place for 5 minutes and you leave, you don't really get to establish yourself in that environment.
For sure.
And I feel like there is some truth to, like, spirits need to be comfortable interacting with you. If someone random were to walk into my front door and sit down on my couch, and after 5 minutes they got up and left, but if they were there for a while and they were really genuinely interacting with me, eventually I would open up to them. And we're a lot of these places, you're a guest, in these buildings.
Oh, yeah.
I like to think of it that way. Yeah. I like to think of it in that way. That's how I kind of approach it.
To build on that too, like, sometimes we capture our best evidence when we're not even trying to interact. Like, we'll just be having a conversation about what's going on this weekend, and something will interject.
Something interjects.
So it's that, you don't have to walk into every room and be like, do you know you're dead? Like, it's not some interesting questions are good too. Like, try to, I always try to ask questions that aren't like, obvious ones.
Right.
Like, can you make a noise? And then,
do you like Christmas? If it's near Christmas, think about what's going on around you right now and try to ask pertinent questions to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's, something that would interest you like, what would you want to talk about with somebody? Like,
Right.
If you were dead, you probably wouldn't want to be talking about how dead you are.
How totally dead I am.
Yeah. Well, it also encourages really genuine interactions, and I feel like those genuine interactions always yield much better results than the disingenuous, like the shallow questions.
Right, the ones they I'm sure get asked all the time.
Yeah. Another living person asking me.
Oh, asking, what's that like to be dead? Great, how creative.
I've never gotten a response to "Do you know you're dead?" ever in my entire.
I think that because they just go like this.
Or they're not dead, and it's the whole multi-universe theory, and they're like, "Why are they asking me if I know?"
Why are they asking? What are they asking? That's weird.
I'm proud that I don't think I've ever asked that question.
Yeah,
I'm more referring to when I've been in the room with other people.
Honestly, during things, it's like there's so much better questions to ask than that one. I don't know why people ask that question.
That's why it's good to know the history, because you can think about questions you want to ask in a certain location while you are before you even get there.
So, what are questions? Speaking of questions, what are questions you love being asked about what you do?
Love being asked. That's a good question.
That is really good.
My favorite question is, how did you make it look like that? But I'm a production person, so that's
right. How did you do that?
I like that too. People are so like, it looks great, and it's always like, I'm always proud of it. You know, it's like, I don't know, when we cut it together, like we're all film people. We're all you know, we all do like photography and videography. But still, I was like, I saw the final edit and I was like, wow.
Like
oh,
it was good.
Like I know that this, like we all like we had the skills to do it, but still
when you see the final thing, you're like,
yeah, it's. I mean, we went into it with the idea that we're like, well, we got passed on by. It wasn't just Ghost Hunters. We got passed on by a few major network shows, and the idea was like, we have the skills and we have most of the gear to make a show that looks very similar to Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters. The only thing we don't have would be the budget. So we're like, why don't we just make it ourselves? You know, it'd be fun. And like that's kind of where we're going. Like we have, I personally don't have any expectations. Like if we keep growing this and people enjoy it, great. But realistically, like just the process and us doing it is just a blast. And
oh, for sure.
It's just like, how often do you go get to make movies with your friends? You know, especially as like adults. You know, we're both 30 something, so it's like, you know, it's like we're gonna go make some movies with our friends, and like, that's really fun. And you know, adding ghosts into it is just.
It's just extra. That's just great.
I know, it's like fun. Oh.
So conversely then, what questions do you hate being asked about what you do?
I don't know that I've ever hated a question I was asked.
You know, it's more statements. I don't necessarily like when people who, and this is just me, this is probably me just bitching about people being mean, but if you're one of those people who goes on videos and watches like somebody else's like hard work and
oh yeah, I know where you're going.
And just says things like, oh, you're a 30-year how immature, you're a 30-year-old who goes around and like pretends ghosts are real, and it's like just it would be so much easier just not to comment at all.
Yeah, my response to those usually is, and yet you bothered to stop and comment.
Oh, we just so we just ignore them because it's just like you don't want to fuel that kind of I never want to fuel that kind of energy on our comments or on our threads or on our episodes. I'd much rather I really like the positive engagement and the really like constructive stuff where people are, and like I love people who don't believe. Like if you don't believe in it, great. Like let's talk about it. Like let's have a debate. Like I would love to hear your thoughts about it, because honestly, I feel like I probably think like we probably agree on 90% of stuff.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that I necessarily don't know are real. The difference is that I want to find out. Like that's why we do this. Is like
right.
Like we're not gonna, like I don't personally believe anything I've experienced like I can say concretely is paranormal, but it's definitely weird and I can't explain it and I want to find out more, and I feel like that's why most people do it. But yeah, I would say the thing that really grinds my gears is it's just like trolls just on the internet.
It's just the negativity for sake of negativity, not because they don't believe in it, but it's just the fact that somebody has to come on and do something negative just because. Yeah,
and I almost feel bad for those people, because it's like usually they just need an outlet to you know, they probably have some stuff going on. And
right. It's like
I said, I never engage with those people because I just don't think it's constructive or productive in any way. But yeah, I'll just say that, like, if you're just going on just like complaining about people, like, I would say that keep an open mind. Like, we definitely don't need to agree on everything, and you don't need to believe what I believe. But I would say that by making like callous statements like that, like how many hours do you think we spent on that, Jay?
I couldn't even put
filming,
it.
editing, pre-production, 100.
Maybe more.
So it's not
realistically.
Just like, yeah, so it's definitely like a labor of love, and we put kind of art into it, and like you guys don't have to like that's totally fine, but
just don't be mean.
Yeah, just don't be mean. Like,
don't be mean about it. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. Like, nobody's making you.
Yeah, I just think the paranormal community is so like most people are really great, and like you nurture these great relationships with people, and then there's like just one jerk, and it's like, oh, like why do you have to ruin it for everybody else?
Like, really?
Yeah. I feel like I'm just being like, they're picking on me, over here.
No, it's very. I'm like,
it really doesn't bother me genuinely, but I would just say if there's one thing that I don't like people asking me or talking about is like things like that.
Yeah.
You're callous. Just like you didn't have to type that.
It's like, really, was that necessary? Like, then if you don't like it, then just don't. Where are you here and don't comment.
Totally. Like everyone's entitled to do what they want. This is America. But I will sit here and bitch about it.
But I will also have the right to complain.
There we go. The circle of negativity.
So what do TV movies / mainstream media get wrong about paranormal investigations?
I think we kind of touched on this already, but it's not
very uneventful.
It's very uneventful. You're seeing the most exciting moments. And unlike the network shows, like they're filming for a week at a time at a location. So like, or at least a few days, depending on which show it is. So like they're compressing a lot of time, a week's worth of work or a week's worth of being in a location into a 46-minute episode. So there's a lot of them sitting around and nothing happening. There's a lot of us sitting around and nothing happening, but I don't know that anybody would watch us sitting in silence for that long. So just what
do that well, like ghost hunters, especially early ghost hunters. They did that really well because there are some episodes of the first few seasons of Ghost Hunters where nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's still the case, though. There's still episodes where nothing happens.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it felt like a lot more back then because I feel like now they just don't necessarily show all of that. They used to show it a lot more. Like even we do the same thing. We spend 6 hours in a thing, and how long is our episode?
34 minutes.
34
a lot of time compression. There's a lot of time compression in all TV.
That's all for sure. So Ouija boards, yes or no?
No.
No.
Wait. Do I get to move my hand to the no?
Yes.
No. The studies that have been done on the your mind making movements that you are unconsciously, what am I trying to say? That is subconscious. Kind of leads me to believe that there's not a lot of validity. If you like it, like more power to you. Like for me, I don't know.
If it's fun and it's something you like to do, go for it. Like that's my whole thought is if you get something from it, great. It's just us personally, we haven't had the same experience.
Yeah.
So
I'll go for it.
What's the first thing you pack when you go on an investigation?
My camera.
Yeah, I would say our cameras.
But we're camera people, so that's like just
makes sense.
That's the first thing we pack whenever we go anywhere.
Yeah. It's usually on me at all times. So
would you want to be a ghost?
Depends on what the rules are.
That's true.
If it's a real thing and ghosts are real, would you want to be one?
I don't know.
What the alternative is. So
yeah, that's true.
Is being the ghost a weird purgatory, and is that like stopping you from going to heaven? No, is it stopping you from going to heaven? I mean, if it's stopping you from going to heaven, I would say no. If it's stopping me from going to hell, I would say then yes.
Thumbs up to that.
But the idea of haunting my friends and family
that's a pretty
makes me giddy. I think that would be so much fun.
That is one
especially the ones
the draw.
especially the ones that don't believe in it.
Oh yeah,
Those are the ones you haunt.
their house be like, "Ooh."
I would just go in the kitchen and start making sandwiches.
Yeah, just opening all the cabinets.
They go, Jer's here again.
Like, your kitchen's a mess.
There's
Food's
50
all over the
sandwiches,
floor.
yeah.
It's Jeremiah, the helpful poltergeist. He's just like start putting things away. It's like, your place is a disaster.
I can't operate under these conditions.
I can't haunt like this. Ugh, this place is gross. What's the first thing you do after completing an investigation? Like, first thing, pack everything up, all the equipment's put away, everything's done, you're getting ready to like leave the location. Do you go like eat? Do you go to bed? Like, what do you do?
Food.
Yeah, usually food. We really like food.
Yeah.
Well, the
Like
nice thing about investigating places, I mean, we have a lot of great diners here in Rochester, but the nice thing about investigating places like outside of Rochester is you have to experience all these like local food places that are open really late. And it's usually where the best food is.
That's true.
I think like 24-hour diners, it's like the crappiest, best food you'll ever eat.
Oh, for absolutely sure. Yeah. So I made everybody kind of wait a little bit, but if anyone is still around that has a question for the guys, please put it into the chat now. I do see one that's in here. Somebody says, are you able to do Patty Hill Library?
Oh, it's Paula. Hi, Paula. I
we're friends with
would
Paula.
be open to it.
She's a journalist.
Hold on, I'm Googling it. Libraries might be tough. I don't know if they're always into that sort of stuff. Sometimes places are like, I don't want
Yeah, I've encountered
paranormal investigating.
where they're
I
like,
would say that there are some places in Rochester that are on the maybe list that might surprise you.
Yes.
interesting. That's a little tease.
Like
there.
they're not places that they're places that we are very honored to be asked to investigate. I would say that it's not like a standard place that people would normally go to.
Mhm.
Very cool.
And they're really cool. Like, so Rochester's a relatively old city, and they're just the architecture and the history here is pretty amazing. So, a lot of cool old buildings that.
Paula says it's been closed. We'll look into it. It's on my list of stuff to research and figure out if there's.
Ooh, Mark put garbage plates in reference to food. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't
Garbage
had one.
I haven't had one in forever either.
Local cuisine, it's
We've
delicious.
got is, what is your favorite piece of equipment to use?
I think I just love cameras. Like, there's nothing better than a good infrared camera for me investigating. That's what I think. And an audio recorder. Those are my two mainstays.
Camera, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the basics, like you're saying, camera and a voice recorder.
The other stuff can be flashy and interesting, but like, there's nothing. You get the best evidence with the simple stuff. That's what I think.
Yeah, you don't need the flashy stuff. It's fun, for
It's
sure.
fun to play with, for sure. It's a fun toy.
Some of the stuff you do get some really interesting, interesting interactions with. Like REM pods are really cool. But those are also very basic. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's an EMF detector essentially. I mean, it puts off its own EMF, but it's more or less the same as an EMF detector.
Well, I think that's it for questions. At least that's what I see. That's it for questions. If anyone has any, please go ahead and send them, because I've kept these guys probably long enough. It's getting late for them right now. So thank you guys so much for joining me for the show.
Thank you for having
us. This is fun.
It's super fun. I was like, dude, like 2 hours. It's been 2 hours, and I feel like it's been 5 minutes.
We're ramblers. Talk a lot.
Seriously, like I feel like I was like, dude, it's been this long. Like, dude, like, but it was like, I feel like it's been like the time flew. Honestly,
it really did.
So easy to talk about. It's something we're like so passionate about. So.
Oh yeah, when you talk about something,
I can talk for hours.
Oh, for sure. Like I can just like blah, 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 and I'm like, nobody wants to hear me, but you know, like I will, and have and done. So definitely tell us. Tell us where to find you guys. We know YouTube. The link is in the bio or the description of this video below. We've gone ahead and linked them. So if you have not subscribed to Go Show, if you haven't watched Nightmare Manor, please go do. Actually, we have one more question. One more question before I wrap up. One more.
Awesome.
Ghost
from
Club.
Ghost Club.
Ghost Club.
Represent.
Hey.
Your significant others believe in the paranormal.
Mine does. Mine is skeptical, but has investigated before and is definitely open to the idea, but is not. I wouldn't say that she does not believe it at all.
Okay,
But
so not
open-minded, skeptical.
Gotcha.
My wife is a beautiful, closed-minded skeptic. And I say this because one time I was at Jay's house and I got a call from her and she's like, "Are you home?" I said, "No, I'm at Jay's. What's up?" And she's like, "There's people walking around in the house." And I'm like, "Call the police. Like, I'm like 25 minutes away."
Call the cops.
She's like, "No, I meant like I checked the house. There's nobody here." And she still doesn't believe in it. So I don't know. I have it's like a mission. It's a mission of mine to take her on an investigation. I'm sure she still won't believe it afterwards, but
it would make a great episode.
Hey, it'd make a great episode, and you never can try for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, might as well give it the old college try.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you for hanging out with us for a couple hours and hanging out with the guys from Ghost Show. They are amazing. They're so much fun, and they're so passionate about what they do. One of my favorite things, and before I let you guys go, is one of my favorite things about your guys' show is that you take the time to explain the equipment and how it works, which a lot of shows do not do that. You actually break down like how the REM pod works, like how you explain this is this equipment, this is what it does. A lot of investigators just bust the equipment out and don't say what it is and don't say and it's some of us in the paranormal are very familiar with that equipment ourselves because we've either used it or seen it used a bunch of times. But if somebody's just coming into this, they have no idea what that is and they have no idea what it does. So I really like that you do that you take the time to go, this is a spirit box. This is how it works. This is, this is this is that. So
I think it's so important. It literally takes us, 5 to 10 seconds to quickly explain how something works.
So I
feel like it gives people an idea of what's going on. Because if I was watching something and I had no idea what they were using, I'd be like, oh, so what these things are lighting up. I don't even know what that means.
You don't just assume that your audience knows what these things are already. And that's cool.
We're all beginners in some way. Like we said in the beginning, there's no experts in these fields. So everybody's on a different plane and is in a different place. So we'd like to include everybody if we can.
And I think everybody uses different gear, everyone kind of, even people who have been doing this for a while, a lot of the gear we use is pretty standard. But there's some crazy people in the paranormal community who are these engineers that are coming up with these amazing things.
Yeah.
Blows my mind because I do not have that. I don't think that way. But they come up with these incredible things.
It's a huge pet peeve of mine when a show will bring out a new piece of equipment and not really explain how it works.
Yeah.
What is it?
They'll be okay, if we get a response from this thing, it'll be a ghost. And I'm like, well, what is it doing? What environmental sensors are in there? Why will this device tell me that there's something? That's just my inherent need to understand what is going on.
But that was my
I don't try not to take anything at face value.
For sure. So guys, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody that's watching, thank you for joining. Go check the guys' channel out. They're going to be able to get hopefully out to investigate very soon, hopefully as soon as all of this craziness is over. Go check out the solo investigations. Pretty soon you guys are going to have that other episode out of the postmortem is going to be out pretty soon. But go check out, go subscribe and and hit that little bell so you get notifications for when those things come up. So go like and subscribe, Go Show. Go do it now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you so much. And I'd love to have you back on as soon as everything picks up. And once you guys have gotten a couple investigations under your belts, we'll have you back.
That'd be great.
Great. Yeah, we'd love that. Thank you so much for having us. These are so much fun.
So. All right. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah.